fantastic rendition of Company by Philip Glass. About 11 years ago, I was in a pub with this gentleman, Paul, and we decided that what we needed to do was make an orchestral train set. I thought it was just going to be a simple figure of eight thing, but along the way we picked up John Powell, who suggested we should put some sidings on, and then you came up with all sorts of interesting different narrow gauge, wide gauge. I usually suggested more fir trees, and it's been just such a pleasure to keep adding to this train set. And you know, we picked up Eric Whittaker along the way, Olafur Arnalds, but you still come up with these mental ideas, and this one is particularly kind of close to my heart because it enables us to create a genre of music, or certainly be influenced by a genre of music that is very, very close to my heart. But also, you've developed a new workflow for us. So it's going to be very exciting to talk you through this. I'm going to hand over to Paul in a minute, but first, roll VT.
So I'm delighted that we can be here to introduce you to the Kepler Orchestra. What is Kepler? It's all about creating systems music for the 21st century. Riley, Reich, Glass and Adams have inspired all of us, from Kraftwerk to Nils Frahm, Tangerine Dream to Cliff Martinez. They've actually inspired you as well. You have a passion for systems music.
Yeah, I do. I mean, for me, I'm not particularly into mathematics, but I love what geometry creates from mathematics. If you look at something like Vitruvian Man, Leonardo da Vinci, his admiration for the fact that that is half that, and that is half that, and that is the same as your foot. These systems occur in nature, and mathematics for me is our way of explaining what we already know, which is what I like about the Kepler thing, because you go, of course they would go faster around that bit of the elliptical orbit. Yeah. And I think for me, the beauty in mathematics and geometry can be heard, and that is systems music, and there's something inherently beautiful about that, romantic about it.
Great. So, there are three things that we've developed here. The first one is to create rhythmic orchestral motion. From simple, as we're just describing, to massively complex, and it kind of all areas in between. The second thing is to give an impression of movement and speed. And the third thing is something that's incredibly difficult to do in samples, which is repeated notes, and to be able to kind of do the kind of rebowing thing and for that to sound realistic. So this library, which you can see a little artifact behind me from the origin of our kind of thoughts on creating it.
You're being modest. It's a sketch that you drew up. It's your mental idea.
Yeah, it's a bit of a beast, and you can see kind of the origins of it there. It's recorded in Air Studio 1 by Fee Cruikshank, dry, to give you lots of control, but it locks in instantly and beautifully with our studio range, and also with the Bernard Herrmann library, which we recorded. Herrmann, obviously himself a master of cell composition. The band we recorded, which you probably can't quite see up there, but it's 40 strings, 19 brass and 13 woodwind, so it's a great size, really fits nicely in that room. It's not about creating minimalist music, so where you kind of strip everything down to the essence, but you can do that, but that's not the kind of prime purpose. It's about creating neoclassical and neo-romantic music using these systems techniques. And being able to create these complex musical structures, which I kind of think of as almost like 3D ostinati. So the library contains 5 elements. There are, the first thing is the systems grid. And it looks a little bit like our Evo grid, but it contains all of the rhythmical subdivisions of the bar across the top. So you can pick the pegs and you can decide what key range on the keyboard plays what rhythmical subdivision of the bar. So that's the first, and that's kind of the core of it. The second element of it, which kind of takes us away from that sort of orrery, I'd like to think of it as a musical orrery, which is the 3D thing that you can see the movement of the planets on. It's that thing where things are going into and out of time in a way, and kind of locking together and then drifting apart. So that's the kind of beauty of the main section of the library. The other parts are all kind of similarly, similarly inspired by this kind of thing. So there's the momentum grid, where you have sounds that grow and then drop and then grow again. And we've got two different versions of that. We've got our kind of pulsing version. We've got a straight version. There's actually, I say two, there's actually three different things. There's an accelerating one, which is not quite the same, but it sounds almost like the sounds are kind of pulsing faster and faster and then slowing down again. And all of these things are kind of set to loop perfectly, so that you can have all of these individual elements working together to build a really kind of complex tapestry. The third element are what we're calling shards, which are like, we imagine these as kind of light shards coming past your head. We all saw in Interstellar the formation of the accretion disk of the black hole, and when that forms, you get these kind of lights being emitted that kind of looks like these. And we tried to imagine that as a kind of musical gesture. So these are like very rapid and different kind of length crescendos that really come to a very abrupt halt at the end, and they're particularly useful as well. The fourth section is Dopplers. So you've seen a little bit of this in the teaser videos, but the idea of this is that when you have the Doppler effect, something is coming towards you, the sound waves are compressed. As it passes you, you perceive a drop in pitch, and then as it moves away, the sound waves expand, and so that pitch drop is maintained. So for these, you get the sound swelling up, you get the pitch drop, and then the sound dies away. And these work really beautifully well, especially with the low brass, and some of the kind of low string stuff is really good. The fifth and final section of the library is the warped content. So we've taken the organic stuff, again, as we've done many times before. We've done some granular resynthesis on it, so that's part of the content, but we've also used our kind of massive outboard collection and done all kinds of kind of crunchy stuff and putting things through guitar pedals and reverbs and all the kind of stuff that, that we love to do. So if we have a quick look at the kind of the interface. So if we switch over to here, we're going to show you a couple of the patches from the library. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the main grid. So if you look across the top here, you can see that we've organized the sounds. Now, what we've done is we've kind of gone subdivisions, so you divide the bar in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And between us and Ben Foskett, we worked out an incredibly complex but easy for the musicians to play way of recording all this stuff so that it could be played very accurately in time. But what we've done is we've organized it in the library into duple time first, then triple time, then the quintuplets and septuplets. So it's organized in a kind of logical way that makes it slightly easier to use. So Ollie, if you could just play us a little bit from this one. So you can hear there you've got dynamic control as well, but it just locks absolutely perfectly in. There are a variety of different ways to lock this into your sequence, into your composition. You can either be playing live along with existing MIDI, and you can set it to quantize from the front panel, or you can turn that off and then quantize it in your sequencer and then use it that way. So there's a couple of different interesting ways to use this. Obviously, you can just set the whole line so that everything that you play is on the same rhythmic part, but you can also get some really inspiring stuff by mixing up the rhythms and having certain areas dedicated to the tuplet stuff and then triplet stuff or quintuplet stuff in other areas. So it's very, very flexible like that, and you can get this kind of mixed effect. So if we just give you a quick random blast.
I'm not sure how it's going to sound.
So great stuff. So you can hear things cycling around, everything kind of moving apart and then gradually coming back together. So that's a kind of key element to the library. So if we have a look at the next section, this is one of the things that we've recorded, we're calling muted trems, and it starts with a kind of accent and then goes into a trem for the rest of that note period. So it sounds like this. So that's a really useful one as well, and one the particular kind of favourite of ours when we were writing demos and stuff for the library. The third one that we're going to have a look at are shards. So we're playing these on the cellos, and again, you can hear the kind of effect of this. So you've got that opportunity to, for the notes to really grow. There are two different versions of these. We've designed patches that work with the time machine so that everything ends at exactly the same moment. But we really liked the version where we don't make everything absolutely rigidly timed. And then you can get these kind of feathered endings to the notes. And I really actually like that effect. So that's another element to it. If we look at the next one down, we've got, in the basses, we've done a pizzicato grid, just to give you that kind of pulsing bass line feel. And this is really useful because, as good as it is kind of playing a bass part with round robins and different samples triggering, to have an actual recording of the basses so that the notes are still ringing when the next note is plucked, it just sounds slightly different. So as you can hear, you can also, even within having everything set to the same time signature, you can offset your start times and get really interesting rhythms kind of generated that way. The final thing that we'll have a quick look at are the Dopplers, and these are the non-pulsing Dopplers in the low brass. So we've got the versions where the Dopplers just come past you, like that effect of the kind of ambulance going past. But we've also got ones where the musicians played a timed sequence as it went past as well. But have a listen to the non-pulsing Dopplers. So really useful. Again, recorded this across the range so you can come up with your own kind of variations on this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass you over to Ollie, who's going to talk you through one of his fantastic compositions for the teaser trailers. So over to you, Ollie.
Thanks, Paul. So I've had the pleasure to play with the library for the last 2 weeks, and you might have seen one of the teasers. There were 6 teasers, and I'm just going to walk you through teaser number 6, which was released last night, yesterday evening, and I'm going to show you what kind of sounds I like, and what my approach was to score this short teaser. So I focused on those 2 planets, so the blue and the red planet. And the blue planet is represented by these warps. Paul was addressing one of the elements, and I absolutely love those. So if I'm just going to show you the interface and play you a few of those. So Calypso is one of my favorites, and I like assigning the mod wheel here. So I assign it here to the low pass filter. So I just play it without. But then with the mod wheel, it allows me to kind of follow the motion of the blue planet. Then the next sound I've used is Hydra. I absolutely love these sounds. They've got so much depth and 3D, and the team has done warping and kind of granular synthesis, and come up with all these sounds. Ophelia is a wonderful sound as well. Sounds great in the low end. Amazing. As you can hear, that was created from the Doppler effect. Despina, Despina. Again, very useful for like kind of dynamic movement. And if I just play you the warped section here, and that's attached to the blue planet there. So as you can see, very simple, kind of opening the low-pass filter when the planet is closer to the sun. And then I was diving into more of a kind of a systems music approach, heavily inspired by Reich's desert music. I'm actually just going to play you the woodwinds and the strings together, and you'll hear what I mean and what the library can offer you. So I actually feel the library can offer you kind of rhythmical opportunities that you wouldn't really think of otherwise, because it's quite a complicated approach, as Paul was explaining, with all the mathematics behind it, and you can just kind of like place your fingers and choose different kind of duplets, and it creates a really interesting rhythm for you. Oh, sorry. So here I've got in the woodwinds, I've got eighth notes. I'm just going to play a little bit for you. And I'm using the mix there, which I really like, created by the team. Here I'm using, for example, ambience and kind of a mid-room mix. Against 16th notes. So double the speed. Just going to play the woodwinds for you separately so you can hear kind of these counter rhythms. Fairly simple approach, but I believe that if you have so many kind of different rhythms under your fingertips, you also got to be a little bit careful not to imply kind of too many rhythms for it to get messy. And the main bulk of the rhythms are my septuples here or septuplets here in the strings, which I absolutely love. And if you get the mix right, the whole kind of all the strings together become kind of like this big machinery and like this big kind of pulsing synth, which I absolutely love. And then the brass, I'm using one of the other elements. I'm using the shards, kind of the passing light effect Paul was mentioning. They sound like this. Accelerating momentum as well, which is really lovely in the brass here, because it's really hard to get that right with kind of normal brass samples. And then these low brass shards, really, really powerful. I'm using the close mic here because they sound like this. Amazing and farty, as Christian would say, probably. So I'm just going to play you those brass together. And here is the whole piece one more time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ollie.
Cheers,
Great work,
Ollie.
great work. So we've had an interesting question come in, which I think we could probably have a stab at answering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, how would you use this in kind of traditional scoring?
It's top bottom is that bit in the middle.
Yeah.
And the first time you kind of do your kind of massive, very complex orchestrations, it's fun, and then it just gets like when you're working under extreme pressures, it gets kind of quite tiresome. So the way I would use it in non-kind of systems composition is to create all of that kind of amazing textures. So I would think that actually this stuff would be great for John Williams style arrangements where he's not a big fan of footballs. There's all of that density and granular texture. So that's how I would use it. And as you say, round robins, these repeated notes, the machine gunning effect that you get, it lends to the kind of hybrid sound that we're used to, this ostinato thing. These, because they're actually being played by the musicians, I think actually will service that kind of arrangement more successfully.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think the other element is that it just gets you started when sometimes you've got, it's even, you build up a complex thing and then strip half of it out and you're writing other things around it. It's just something that can help you get started on the process of getting a track done. That's really, really inspirational, I've found, using. So we are now available online, I believe. So head over to the website to check out some more information about this. The link should be in the comments below. Price, it's £199 at the moment, $229, €229.
So that's the pure promo price.
Yeah, promo price ends 6th of June. So you've got a little while to kind of check out all of the materials. My walkthrough is on there now, so watch that for a kind of full rundown. It's a little bit more detailed than the last one I did. It's a little bit longer, so apologies for that in advance, but it's quite complicated. So I've kind of really tried to give it, Christian, you've got a video coming next week.
Contextual, yeah. I'm going to get the old modular out for that. Lock it up, lock modular rhythms up with these create systems and stuff. Should be quite fun.
Great, okay. Well, all that remains then is for us to say thank you very much for spending this time with us. I hope you enjoyed the performance and our little presentation about the Kepler Orchestra. Very excited to share this with you. It's been a lot of complex mathematical work getting this one finished, which was an interesting exercise, but we're really, really excited with how it's turned out.
And Paul, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Paul for coming up with new additions to our mental train set. There's only one man who's more enthusiastic about adding to the train set than you, and that's Hans Zimmer, which is why we get very nervous when Hans Zimmer and Paul are in the same room together. It can be very expensive. If you have any more questions about, I've seen the spreadsheets. Kepler Orchestra, please fire them into our socials, Facebook, Instagram, or indeed just go to live chat on our website. And something that actually kind of tripped Homai, Oliver and myself up with this library is the quantize button. So have a good play with that. It's great to kind of jam stuff up with the quantize on, but to take quantize off the GUI is my recommendation when you're using the library, not losing your mind. Anyway, which I am. So
Too bad.
That's a great idea. Thank you all for coming.
Oh, it's the
today.
labs.
And thank you
It's
for
the
Thanks a lot.